Welcome, everybody. This is our DIB Cloud Office Hours webinar. The topic for today is Secure and Governed GitHub Copilot Adoption for CMMC Regulated Defense Contractor. And that's what we'll be talking about today and showing you today. With that, I'm truly honored to introduce Jason Griffith. Jason is the Director of Cloud Services focused on Azure solutions. He will be presenting today's topic along with Sanjay Injal. Sanjay is the Azure AI and data consultant who helps organize, design, and implement secure, scalable AI and data solutions on Microsoft Azure. Sanjay will be doing our live demo at the end of the presentation. And last but not least, Bob Ballard. Bob Ballard is our Vice President of Sales and Strategy at Planet Technology and a former leader of Microsoft Public Sector team. He'll lead this webinar and share context from his work in government and defense industry-based organizations. Bob helped launch Planet's defense industrial base practice, supporting organizations as they pursue CMMC compliance and work to get more value from their Microsoft environments. For more information about today's program, make sure you check out our links at the end of the program and the blogs on this topic that were posted this week. So let's get started. I'm going to hand it over right to Bob.
Thanks, Jason. Thanks a lot. It's great to be here. I helped start the You Already Own It program here at Planet. And for the first 3 years, I think I did the majority of these sessions all by myself. So it's amazing to see how much it's grown. And thank goodness you're not relying on me to be the expert on this topic. I did want to start by saying, getting the elephant out in the room. Lots of people are talking about this, and I just wanted to take a second to talk about, I think as almost everyone on this call probably knows, the Department of War suspended CMMC Phase 2 earlier this week, or at least for 60 days, right? And primarily Phase 2 required C3PAO assessments to validate your compliance to NIST 800-171 for Level 2. If you're a DFARS or ITAR organization, this doesn't change anything. You still need to maintain those controls. You still need to document your SSPs, manage your POAMs, meet all the standards. The bottom line is the timeline might shift for your actual third-party audit, or maybe some details or requirements may change around that piece of it, but it doesn't change the underlying fact that everything you need to do meets standard, and you're going to need to do the self-assessments with the same level of zeal, hopefully, that the third-party auditors would. So as far as engaging and maintaining those environments, nothing has changed there, regardless of what the outcome is after the 60-day pause. With that, I think we're going to kick things off with a poll here, Jason. So I think that's the next slide here. Yeah. So we're going to start off with a quick poll. Why don't you go ahead and publish that, Jason, to the crowd? It's, sorry, you covered, I got to close the poll. There you go. Is your development team currently using AI tools like GitHub, Copilot, Codex, or Claude? 3 options, yes, no, investigating options. So we'll give you a couple seconds to answer those. It's looking like most of the answers are in the yes or investigating category. Just give this a few more moments, get people to answer. All right, Jason, I think we've got our crew that's going to answer the poll. We want to move on from that. All right, well, without any further ado, let's welcome the man, the myth, the legend. That is Jason Griffith, our Director of Cloud Services. Jason, go ahead and get us into the good stuff.
Great, thanks, Bob. So as part of today's discussion, we'll have a few slides just walking through where some of the limitations are for customers and their teams to be able to access these specific tools that are specific to CMMC environments? What does it take to really enable pro-code developer workstations? How does Azure fit into this world in an Azure commercial scenario? And then the deployment considerations and some learnings that we've had with customers who've undertaking these endeavors. And then more importantly, Sanjay will walk through a deployment scenario within Azure and walk through the different controls, the services, how and why we've made certain decisions to support these, as well as show what does that end user or that developer access to that environment look like for them to leverage these types of tools. So short slides and then more time spent on the actual demonstration. And so when we talk to a number of customers in the DIB who've deployed CMMC environments, one of the challenges that they're trying to overcome is how do they enable their pro-code developers that are restricted to access to commercial tools like GitHub Copilot. One of the fastest growing opportunities for leveraging AI capabilities is for developers, and limiting their access to these tools, but also providing governance and security around those environments is really the key chalenge. So, in these GCC High and Azure Gov tenants, there's some limitations where GitHub Copilot is not available in GCC High or Azure Government today. So how do you give access to those tools? Large language model choice and access is limited. And one of the reasons why, when you look at what's available in commercial Azure today versus an Azure Government tenant, is because Microsoft doesn't necessarily host the Claude or the Anthropic or the other models in their environments. And so the only environments that they actually host are some of the open AI models. And so that's why the limitation exists into the Azure Gov. So Microsoft is limiting only those models that they host into the Azure Gov tenant today. They've got to go through very specific ATO processes, authorization process to enable those. So that limits choice and availability. And then today, in some cases, developer workstations themselves are aligned to CMMC requirements, preventing access to certain tooling. And so building out an environment to be able to support these workstations becomes a much higher burden for teams today. And so here's some ways that you can overcome that to enable those capabilities. So, the challenge is to provide developers with secure and governed access, and provide access to really popular AI development tools within that commercial environment. And what you're starting to do here, and what we've seen other customers do in these scenarios, is start to build muscles around build low, deploy high methodologies. So while if that's one of your strategies where you want to deploy AI capabilities into the Azure Gov tenant with agents or other scenarios, how can you start in lower tenants meeting the compliance and security requirements, but then also have the ability to push those agents or move those agents into a more secure environment? And what does that scenario look like? So one of the things that we've done is really built a strategy around GitHub Copilot workspaces in Azure commercial tenants. So we're providing developers that live in these environments today with very specialized workspaces that are built towards 853 controls in the commercial tenant to be able to build low, deploy high methodology, or just have access to the broader tool sets within the environments. And what you're able to do is have AVD individual workstations that come pre-imaged or pre-built via Intune, to have Visual Studio or VS Code and GitHub Copilot deployed for developers so they can build expertise and skills with a broader access to those models in those environments, as well as Foundry in those environments. And what you start aiming for is leveraging Azure DevOps or GitHub Enterprise in that commercial side to standardize on deployment of ADO and customer tenants. to be able to rapidly provision AVD environments and Foundry environments. So one of the architecture decisions that we make with customers is around how many Foundry spokes do I potentially need to deploy? How segregated do I want to make these environments? And then how do I limit developers to a specific spoke? And then how do I put policies in place to what's able or enabled in those environments? So maybe you don't want the Chinese models available in those environments, or restrict just to OpenAI or to a broader set. What does that look like? And you really want to isolate the developer workspaces towards the 853 technical controls, because in a lot of cases, when you start deploying Foundry spokes, you want to have a very high level of security and governance within those environments. So as agents are built, then you deploy them to your Azure Gov tenant. You now have either a one-to-one or a closely matching security model that allows you to seamlessly, move those agents into a higher governed instance. So when you start talking about the design and what's this look like, we've standardized on a 3 subscription model within the environment. A hub subscription that supports the shared services, such as the firewall, gateway if it's required, log analytic workspaces, Azure Monitor, Defender for Cloud, that's governing the access to the environment in those individual spokes, and really supports the networking and how you isolate traffic across those environments. Then you separate out an AVD spoke subscription, where Azure Virtual Desktop, your shared pool host, image management, Intune controlled session hosts, Entra ID conditional access assignments, and AVD diagnostics, which then leads you to your Foundry spoke subscription. And what in many of our conversations with customers, it's, how many Foundry spokes do you need? Do you leverage just one? Do you build out multiple? And it really comes down to how you're trying to align either development teams or business groups, or what type of agents are trying to be built in those environments. And in many cases, what we're seeing that our customers are choosing to do is really have either a 2-to-1 or a 1-to-1 relationship to a developer to a specific Foundry access, because of what they may be trying to build, and prevent cross-data threading across the different environments. And so within your Foundry spoke subscription, you're building out your Azure OpenAI services or other models that you may want to choose, Azure AI Search, your Cosmos storage, the standard services that allow you, the developers, to take advantage of those environments. And this is just the picture representation. It's a little small, but I know everyone will get the slides. But it's really just to show how the connectivity exists across the 3 environments. And in this case, where all of the network routing is routed through the hub. So as a user comes into the environment, they access AVD, and then network access from AVD back through the hub to your Foundry spoke. And again, your Foundry spoke will live as a one-to-N environment. So within a standard exercise, you would always have a singular hub and a singular AVD subscription, and that allows you to branch out multiple Foundry spokes to be able to support innovative or individual development capabilities that you're looking to build upon. When you look at your, from a deployment considerations and why, we've made the decisions that are made to be able to support this architecture, you really want to focus on developer having limited or read-only rights to the portal itself, so that they're just focused on accessing their AVD environment, access to VS Code and GitHub Copilot, and then access to the Foundry services within the environment through that dedicated workstation. Make sure your Entra ID conditional access policies are enforced using MFA. AVD shared pools, either GPU or non-GPU desktops within that environment. And then also, pre-installed development tools, whether it's for VS Code, Visual Studio, GitHub Copilot, or your development tool of choice, but allowing them to leverage the tooling AI capabilities so that they can get faster access to development of the solutions that you're building. Private endpoints are deployed by default, deny by default outbound policies, and you really want to make sure, as you look to invest on the licensing side, M365 commercial and GitHub Copilot licensing to be able to have access into that environment. So your 365 licensing will allow them to have access to AVD, and then the GitHub Copilot allows them to have access to the AI codecs and tooling capabilities within that environment. And then everything is always, infrastructure as code is the standard, so that as you need to make changes in terms of configurations or roll out of new environments, you can just standardize on executing those modules versus manually rebuilding the environments. So as part of the demonstration that Sanjay is going to walk everyone through today is really a review of the services that have been enabled, the security and networking, do a Foundry overview of those capabilities, the AVD deployment environment. He's going to walk through how to onboard a user to the RBAC and those controls within the environment, log into AVD, and show how the developer can access VS Code and GitHub Copilot from that workstation. In our next, as we had indicated, this is part 1 of part 2. So part 2 is really going to be around how a developer will then use this tooling set to be able to access Foundry tools and build agents or build software in that environment, and show how it's protected within that specific workstation. So with that, I will hand it over to Sanjay, who will share his screen and conduct a demonstration.
Thanks, Jason. So everything Jason just walked through in the slide is already deployed in some of our customer as well as in our Planet Lab. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and see how this environment looks like. Can some of you just give me a thumbs up if you can see my screen?
I can see it, Sanjay.
Thank you. So to start off with, it's already deployed in our Hub subscription, the 3 subscription here. So let's start with the Hub subscription here. And right off the bat, you can see we have numerous resource group already provisioned and with specific functions such as network, security, shared services, and compute. And you also see some of the other resources that are with specific Terraform specific tags here, and that's for the Terraform AVD, which I will demonstrate in a bit here. So with that, I'll just walk you through some of the components that have already been deployed in our network resource group. So this is the network transit hub from the architecture slide that Jason just showed, and all traffic to and from the spokes flow through here. You can see the resource groups are split into different function, and this is in the network function. So every resource, every traffic goes through it, and you can see there is a firewall here with a firewall policy, and then you have a bunch of endpoints that basically indicates that all this past services such as blob, cognitive AI service, database, what have you, is always in the private network that we have set up. So that's the basically the network resource group. And then let's go to the security resource group. So that's a wrong one. So this is where you see a lot of the private endpoints, and these are all paired with the AI spoke and the AVD spoke here. And with that, I'm going to show what the developer experience looks like. So I'm going to show my uh, desktop here. And as you can see, there are three different types of AVD. One is the Terraform desktop. So this is the one for bootstrapping the hub environment when you get started. And then once your environment is up, you log into this AVD and you configure provision the AI spoke and the AVD spoke, and that is where you can give RBAC access to the developers who can then log into the specific AVDs. So again, there are two types of AVDs. One is the share pool, which is which comes with pre-loaded tools such as VS Code, Git, Azure CLI, what have you. And this is common for any standard developer. And then we have a personal desktop, which gives you, in cases where a developer needs to install certain libraries like Python libraries or for a specific use case, they can use the personal desktop, and it does have the same tooling as a share pool, but you have more of a admin permissions on this AVD, and you have range to install different tools. So with that, I will log into the personal AVD and see what that experience looks like. So I click on this option here. And again, I have set this up through a Windows app where I've logged into my tenant. So I'll give it a few seconds here to load up. And it's coming up. So there you go. So you can see I have I'm already logged in, and here's my tooling where I'm already developing my application, and this is my session. It's already loaded for you, and this is my GitHub Copilot agent, which is already connected to my GitHub account. So that's demonstration I wanted to provide, and I also wanted to just give you a preview of the Foundry experience. So go here. So it's already loaded in my other session, so I'm just gonna log out of this AVD. So I'm going to go to my AI Spoke subscription here. So as I can see in the AI Spoke subscription, we have this many resource group. AI, the AI resource group has most of the Foundry components. The container app environment, this is where you would host your multi-orchestration agent, and compute is where all you have the developer AVDs, and networking is where you peer with your hub, and so on for the security and the shared services as well. So I'm just going to give you a brief overview of the Foundry portal from here. And I know we have a deeper session on Foundry, so I wouldn't go that deep here. Oh, and that's right. It's that is because I'm trying to access the AVD from my workstation, and we have already set it up so you don't have access to Foundry Portal from your workstations. So I need to go through the AVD. So what I'm going to do is now I'm back in my AVD, and I'm going to have to log into my Azure portal again. So as you can see, you have all the Foundry resources, you have the private endpoints. So I'm going to go to the Foundry resource. And you saw that when I tried to do that from the portal, it wouldn't allow me, and that's by design. So since I am in the Spoke subscription, I should be able to go to the Foundry portal from here. Yeah, so this is we are in the Foundry portal, and this is the new Foundry portal. So I'm not going to go into detail, and I just wanted to point out that you see the API key is disabled, so you cannot use an API key. So every authentication you need to use managed identity or Entra ID to access any resources. And here are some of the models available in this subscription and projects. So I'm going to stop here because we're going to have a deeper session on Azure Foundry for the next time. And with that, I will hand the control back to Jason.
Sanjay, thanks for that. But real quick, could you show us how you restrict the models in that environment? So is all that's available in this environment is text embedding in GPT 5.1 in terms of policy, or is it just what you used last?
Yeah, so in this you would have to enforce a policy. So let's say you talk about like DeepSeek, so you will have to have a policy for that, which I can go into deeper in the next session.
Okay, thanks. All right, I'll take back over. So what Sanjay had shown really was around setting up the three-spoke environment, the ability to leverage AVD in that environment, how you can restrict access to the Azure portal from outside of the AVD environment from a policy perspective to make sure there's governed access into that environment. Everything was set up with private endpoints, denied by default outbound, and the licensing. So thanks, Sanjay, for showing that. So I think we're at our next poll question.
Yeah, I'm happy to chime in. Jason, why don't you go start sharing that? But which topics would you like most for us to cover in a future DIB cloud office hours? We have hidden gems, getting the most value out of M365 G5. I think the general idea behind that is things that may not necessarily directly correlate with the CMMC control, but provide significant value either on security or functionality. AI in practice, day 2 lessons from the field. That's about real enablement in larger organizations, and what we've learned about getting the most out of AI. Undercover C3PAO, what to expect in a CMMC assessment. Very curious to see where people stand on that as a topic with all the elements in the news. Agent 365 in GCC High, which is something that is definitely coming this fall. That's what we keep hearing. And Power Platform plus AI, modernizing existing AI solutions. So let me know which ones you guys are interested in. There's a clear leader out of the gate, but we'll give you guys a minute or two to respond. And while people are responding, Jason, I'm going to try to summarize with my manager brain here that used to be technical but isn't every day anymore. What I feel like I saw there, right, was a way for your developers to leverage, GitHub Copilot and all of those tools and capabilities that are in there to develop applications or agents for your GCC High environment in a commercial environment in a way that allows you to still maintain CMMC compliance and allow your developers to have all the productivity and power of those tools in the low side to then publish on the high side in a way that still allows you maintaining CMMC compliance. Did I summarize that pretty well? Or is there anything I missed? I mean, I know there's details, but did I miss anything?
No, Bob, I think you covered that, encapsulated it perfectly.
Awesome. Thank you, sir. All righty. I think we're probably good on the poll, Jason. Jason 2, I guess we'll say.